Today I'm going to be reviewing the Comfee Mini Plus Dishwasher model TD305-W. I watched many review videos online before buying a small dishwasher. Most of the videos seemed overwhelmingly positive and almost as if they were sponsored ads. This review is based on my personal experience having owned and used this dishwasher for nearly a month. I bought this dishwasher on Amazon UK for £289 with Prime shipping. There are several others around this price point and they all look nearly identical. But this one was a little bit higher at the end of the scale, but it had really good reviews. When I was browsing for dishwashers to buy, I decided on a few key metrics to see if it would be worth it. The most important thing is that it must do a good job of washing dishes. Well, it needs to at least be as good as me doing a lazy job on a sink full of dishes in poor lighting. The other metrics are that it must be less work and more efficient than doing it manually. After I took it out of the packaging, the first thing I realized it was too tall to fit under my upper cabinets. I didn't measure this because all the review videos showed it fitting just fine, but I don't plan to put it there, so it really doesn't matter to me, but double check if you are. All the parts were taped inside, which included all the hoses. The inside was also very wet from factory testing. The sticker on top says it's normal, but there was a lot of water. This dishwasher doesn't require plumbing to be installed, but it's optional. I really wanted to test it out before I went to the effort of dealing with all the plumbing, so for now it's just going to drain into the sink and I'll use the jug to fill it up. The filling jug it comes with, it's fairly simple to fill with just 4.5 jugs or so. After looking at the instructions, if you hook it up to the plumbing, it looks like you need to be able to turn the water supply off and on between uses, and I'm not really sure if that makes it practical if I'm going to go through the work of using plumbing. I found the built-in water softener very confusing. The instructions were not very clear on how much dishwasher salt to add, and it took half a dozen uses before the light went away. I don't have much experience with hard water and dishwashers, so I'm just testing things out here. Loading the dishwasher was an experience. The manual gives you some guidelines on the right way to do it. So I started with a small load of normally soiled dishes and cutlery, and something that I discovered in my subsequent uses is that the cutlery tray can be moved up and down to make room for taller glasses. It was very challenging for my patients to do. Not that it's hard, but it requires a lot of precision to keep the plastic holder from falling over, and you couldn't really load much. You can hang measuring spoons and small kitchen knives and things through the holes in the cutlery holder, but it really didn't hold much. It fit my 25cm IKEA dinner plates with ease. The only time I had a hard time shoveling it full of dishes is when I had a lot of mugs and deep bowls. Some of my kitchen things like cutting boards don't fit, so I've since had to buy some smaller ones, and I'm currently looking at skillets with detachable handles. I've only ever used the 30-minute rapid cycle because 2 hours and 30 minutes on the regular cycle is a bit ridiculous, although it is rated for lower energy consumption that way. The results have been very good on the short cycle, so I'm just going to continue to use that. When it finishes washing, the door pops open. The dishes are very hot to the touch, and they are not joking around in the instructions when they say to wait for things to cool down before handling. In my first few attempts, the cutlery still had some suds on it from the wash, but I think this may have been because I was using the standard dissolving dishwasher pods as I couldn't find any powder to be more precise with the dosing. I have found a nice hack that if I just put the pod on the bottom left-hand side where the pan fills up first, it gives the pod more time to break down. Based on my tests, my store-brand pods break open about 30 seconds sooner than if you put them in the notch on the door to fall down to the right-hand side of the pan, but I've never tried it with solid washing tablets and I have a feeling they wouldn't work as well in the short cycle. According to my energy meter, it took 906 watt-hours for a short cycle, which is about 24 pence in electricity consumption at my current high rate in 2022, and that's including heating the water. I don't think that's particularly pricey, especially in exchange for tedious manual labor. For the pros for this dishwasher, well, it really exceeded my expectations. Even peanut butter covered spoons came out clean, and spatulas with dried scrambled egg came out just fine. It's pretty good for a short cycle. It consistently performs much better than had I actually washed them by hand. And at 906 watt-hours, power consumption, which is about 24 pence, that makes it a good trade-off. I don't think I would avoid running it just to save a few pennies. And of course, it doesn't require plumbing to operate, which makes it ideal for renters or those without easy access to pipes. It's really not that hard to fill up with the provided pitcher. And of course, it's not as loud as you might expect. It's fairly quiet. You still hear it running, but it's not obnoxiously loud. And now for the cons. As I mentioned, loading was very challenging to my patients, especially putting in the cutlery. It was not quick and it took a lot of rearranging things in order to get it to fit. There's little assigned space for other kitchen things that are annoying to hand wash, like kitchen knives, whisks, and pizza cutters. Some of my longer spatulas only fit on an angle, which is fine if I don't have a lot of big plates. I ended up buying a generic dishwasher cutlery basket on Amazon for £10, and that seems to help, but obviously reduces the capacity. The instructions aren't always helpful either. I realized a lot of things are common sense, but the first time running the machine, it was beeping and flashing and I didn't know what to do. But you also need the instructions to know secret codes, like how to adjust the salt, and to have it empty the tank if you need to drain it in order to move it. The instructions were very wordy, but simultaneously not very helpful. It's also not very portable for something marketed as portable. The instructions about moving it start with, if you must move the dishwasher. In my experience, if you move it, water will leak everywhere, and it's not clear where it's coming from or why it's leaking. I encountered several E4 leak warnings, and it just beeps and is unable to get it working again after a few days, so I just exchanged it for a new one. Amazon product support couldn't help me, and they were unable to contact the manufacturer outside of standard office hours, so they sent me a new one, and this one has been working just fine. Well, back to the metrics I mentioned at the start of the video. The first one is that it needs to at least be as good as me, and it passes for sure. The second one was that it needs to be less effort than washing by hand, and I think it barely passes here. It was a lot of trial and error, and I think in time I'll understand how to load it more efficiently, but it's still a lot of faff just trying to get it loaded, but the trade-off still is worth it. The third one is efficiency. On the short cycle, it was still efficient. It was less than 1 kilowatt hour, including the heating the water, and I'm sure it used less water than had I done it by hand in the sink. Overall, I give this dishwasher 4 stars out of 5. I think it's a pretty good value if it lasts for a few years without any problems, but it's still much, much better than washing things by hand, and it gives pretty good results.